Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and a 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
So,
Who are the Predators playing tonight?
Stars.
Ooh, there you go. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Parker's team is up in Boston this weekend, and they played yesterday the Dallas Stars Elite AAA team. So there was a team there from Dallas, which
How'd they do?
We won apparently.
Good.
And Chris said that the poor kids from Dallas were all crying because by losing to us, they didn't make playoffs. So I think they thought they had it in the bag to beat us to get into playoffs, and they didn't. So. It was a close game. It was a 3-2 loss for them. So Chris is like, oh yeah, we knocked them out of playoff contention when I don't think we would have gone to playoffs even. Obviously we didn't go to playoffs because we won and we still didn't go. So it was one of those things where it wouldn't have mattered for us. Anywho, and then the team they played this morning in the consolation bracket was from Florida. So a lot of people coming in from all over apparently, which is wild to me, but yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So that's that. But the real Dallas Stars play the Predators tonight.
Yeah, and their Stars came out hot, won 3 in a row, and then they dropped 3 in a row and had a tie. So I think they're both 4-3-1 going into the game today.
There you go.
So I've learned my lesson about wearing Stars attire in there, so I'm going to go in neutral colors. I'll go in my Predators uniform today, so I don't have to put up with a line of everybody calling me out.
They give you a hard time there.
They don't just give me a hard time. They just give people a hard time. They're a very vocal, rowdy, classless fan group. I guess is the nicest way to say it. So
are they the Philadelphians of the South, I guess?
I think they are. They like going through the routine chants of calling out the goalie after he lets a goal, and they like to just go through all of that, and it's a little bit beyond trying to be humble is the way I try to take these games on. So if either team wins, I'm okay with that. So that's a bonus. Yep.
It's a 2 home team situation for you. So how bad can
that's
it be?
Right. I feel I've never really had any inkling to work for the Predators because they've just kind of stunk the last few years. So
yeah, it's a good fan base though. Like I will say, I don't know that people would expect that in Nashville, but it's a good hockey fan base, and
small,
they're
small
like
arena.
Yeah, they when they introduce the team, it's every player it sucks.
Yeah.
Kevin McClintock sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it, but I'm sure other people think it's obnoxious.
Well, I think I don't mind that. I hate it when Suzanne and I first started dating and we went to that minor league team in Knoxville, the Knoxville Bears, and we were sitting behind the net there in the VIP section of the VIP section. And there's a kid there that actually was a goalie on the roster that wasn't playing. So he was up in the stands and he was calling everybody out. And it just got to be when language goes really, really foul to a bad part, when you've got kids around there, that just kind of embarrasses me when they start calling them P words and MF words and that kind of thing. It's just a little rough for me.
Chris said the funniest thing the other day, speaking of the P word, we were walking the Parker to school, and this little, and that's a whole story. I'll tell you that in a minute. But we're walking this Parker to school in the morning. We do that now instead of him taking the bus. And this kid's coming towards us. They had obviously dropped off an older sibling, and they're coming the opposite direction. We got little Brady, little 18-pound happy Brady on the leash, and this little boy just gets like all nervous about our dog. Like he's like doing this and just kind of acting weird. And I think I said something kind of like that, like, whatever. And Chris just goes, he goes, I think they call them meows now.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh,
Lordy,
how we
Lordy,
laughed
Lordy.
and laughed. I thought that was great. But yeah, we started walking Parker to school because he got in trouble on the bus. This was like 2 weeks ago. I haven't even
Yeah.
told you this. And the bus driver said, I'm reporting you guys to Mr. Bucci. Mr. Bucci is the new principal
Mm-hmm.
this year. And you're going to have to go in and have a meeting with Mr. Bucci. And this was on a Wednesday where they were off school for something that Thursday and that Friday. So this whole long weekend, I mean, this kid is just spinning on Monday and having to go back to school and being called to the principal's office, and I was like, I'm like, well, bud. And he kind of like talked about it a lot Wednesday night and Thursday. And then I thought he kind of got over it. I don't think he did, because Sunday night he said, Mom, I'm really having a hard time going to sleep tonight. I'm really worried about school tomorrow. And I was like, why? He's like, well, I got to go to Mr. Bucci's office. I said, oh, I mean, I'd forgotten about it. I said, well, buddy, I'm like, here's the deal. You broke the rules. You're not supposed to be standing up on the bus. Obviously, Miss Sue has kind of had enough of it. And he said, well, but I was doing it to get away from this other kid. And I said, look, I'm not saying you didn't have a reason to do what you did, but like, you're not supposed to stand up on the bus when the bus is moving. It's that simple. So you're going to go in there, and if Mr. Bucci asks why you did it, tell him why you did it, that this other kid was jumping in over and jumping in your seat and bugging you, and you just wanted to get away. I said, but you got to own up to it. And you got to let Mr. Bucci decide how that's all going to go down. And he's like, all right. But I mean, Dad, he was just wrapped tight around that. I mean, he couldn't go to sleep. So he goes to school on Monday and he's got his Apple Watch on, and he texts me. It's like 2 hours into the day, and he's like, and he just says, all good so far. And I'm like, what? So I guess I forgot to I have him on school mode where he can't text me during the day, but he had it off while we were out of town in Nashville, and I forgot to put it back on. So I had to, I'm like, oh my God. So then like 2 more hours goes by, and he's like, still nothing yet. He's like updating me throughout the day, and he gets home, and I'm like, well, so whatever happened? He goes, didn't have to go. He goes, I guess it was, basically like, I think Miss Sue just was, basically fibbing that she was going to sit. And I said, or
Right.
not, like, who knows? But he didn't have to go. But meanwhile, he's like, I'm done with the bus. I'm not riding the bus in the mornings anymore. So I was like, all right. So we use it now as an excuse to get out and get a little walk in, and we take Brady with us, and it's actually been kind of nice. But it was just so funny because he was so worried about going to the principal's office,
Well, yeah, that's fear of God right there.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I did want to bring up just in listening to the podcast. I think I've listened to that podcast of Shane's now. This is the 4th time, but anyway, we'll get into that. But it goes back to where we kind of ended up, and this is a hard lesson, I think, for children to learn, for adults to learn, that once again you just kind of have to be accountable for your actions and your behavior. And if you can step up and own up to it, the outcome is tenfold better than not.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring that forward, and not to make references to Bible study all the time, but we're into the Old Testament. And I mean, if there is a hard read, it's the Old Testament. We brought up some questions that just resonated in trying to read and figure out, all these prophet readings, and what the story behind the prophet readings basically boil down to is that mankind just can't behave itself, and God takes it and takes it and takes it. And then finally, after so many years of taking it with, instructing them through prophets bringing forward their conversations supposedly with God. That's basically what the Old Testament, and it's the word of God. They were called on, they were talked to. Moses was the same way. So the problem becomes that if you don't obey the law, there's consequences. And the first story in the Old Testament, obviously Adam and Eve after creation and the creation of man, is they were living in utopia and told one thing of all the garden and all the trees and all the fruit and everything other than one feeder. You've got the whole yard, but you cannot take that bird feeder. You cannot take food out of that tree. But if they would have just simply said, yes, we know we did wrong. Can you forgive us? But they didn't. They tried to deflect the blame. And so God had no other choice other than to create God's law of right and wrong is wrong. And that's the whole purpose of being right is it's called human stance. This whole thing of what they decided to do is us make excuses. And it's what led and leads astray because we have to atone for our sins. We have to be forgiven for what we've done wrong. But you're never perfect. You can be forgiven, but we would have lived forever had they not eaten from that tree. But in any event, not to get into all that, the point I think what's interesting is that there's nothing that we can do because of this story. And I think it's funny how this story tends to travel amongst all religious writings or all religious beliefs that they're, and it goes back to the whole book of does God exist? But in all events, it's just a matter of kind of like getting put in front of the principal. You're going to have to pay you're going to have to come clean as to what you did. And my point to Parker would be, Parker, I understand that's an excuse, but you've got to come up and say, yeah, I stood up and it wasn't right. And I apologize for that. I was just trying to make it better of getting away from someone that was creating hardship. And be accountable first, be responsible second, and then better yet, you're going to be in a much better place. And lastly, what's the last of the three? It's respect. Be respectful enough to be accountable and responsible. And that's a hard lesson for us to learn. And we think we can go and weasel around things. And it's true. That only makes matters worse. But
it's like you said, you can't, it's like every scenario, to your point of just being accountable, instead of saying, making the excuse or the justification for why you wronged or why you could do better or be any of these things. I mean, I have so many things. I'm like, it's so true. Everybody's first thing is to try to explain themselves, right? Like, well, I did it because of this. And it's like, well, I'm not asking you why you did it. I'm telling you broke a rule. You weren't supposed to do it. It doesn't really matter why you did it. Now, to start with, it's like, you imagine anything. Do you know why you are here today? Do you know why I'm bringing this to your attention? Because you did something you shouldn't. You were asked not to do. And that's just like, again, it's like you said, it's why it's human nature, as we know, to your point, from the beginning of creation to try to justify. And I wonder what that desire of mankind is to, like, I mean, for Parker, I will always say he doesn't like disappointing people. So I think it truly upsets him that he knew he did wrong. It's not, he knew he did. He knew, he's like, yeah, I was doing it. I shouldn't have done it. And he gets really upset if he thinks he's disappointed you. And maybe that's kind of everybody. Like, they don't want to be a disappointment. They don't want to be the person that did wrong. But to your point, it's like, but everybody does wrong all the time. And if we would all just kind of say, yeah, I did that, I don't know why I did it, but I did do it, and I take responsibility for that. So,
Yeah.
it's just I
Well,
think it's interesting to hear you break it down to, again, a moral. I always think of stuff coming out of the Bible as a great moral compass, a guide. The stories that we learn from those teachings
mhm.
truly do resonate and hold true. You know,
Well, and that's the whole point, and I think the author does a great job with that. He goes the creator, the actual organizer, the one that put the world together. If that's what you believe, and whether it's God or whether it's something else, but the order that's there, if you disobey the order, and this goes back to the whole issue that we have in the world today. And I do feel like we are recording, so that's good. The whole issue that we have today is that law and order is such a sensitive topic.
yeah.
Somebody can break the law, and humans want to actually reduce the penalty because they want to give everybody a second chance.
Oh yeah.
And the author in the book, and I picked up a copy of this book for you because I'm going to mail it to you. It's just a good little read. I'm not trying to give you homework, but it's just the way he explains it is he says, the Old Testament is written, it brings God's law, which is right and wrong. And if God is the creator or the police, whatever you want to call him, the enforcer of it, he's going to say, no, that's against what I've told you is right and what we need to do. So I'm going to hold you to that.
Hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean I called it human stance. Human stance is going to err again. And what gets in the way with, and this came really full circle after a conversation that Shane and I had on late Friday or midday Friday, that no, it's no different than what we deal with work,
Hmm.
that we have standard operating procedures.
Hmm.
And if you're a new employee and you're coming on and you see these, and this is your training manual, this is the way you do things, as Dan Martell says, another name that we've used a lot in these podcasts the last couple of weeks. But Martell didn't get to where he was easily. I wanted to bring that up. I wrote that down. He was a drug addict. He had an addiction
Yeah. He,
problem
he is
at a
a
young age. So he
he is
fought that and
another
fought that.
another redemption story. I think that's important
Yes.
to note because
Yep.
that is one of the it's a, again, for all those out there that may or may not be interested in these stories of people like Dan Martell. I do think I'm glad you brought that up because we talk about these people that have become very successful, and when I'm measuring success, that's not just necessarily monetarily successful, but in his case has been successful in terms of monetary gain, but
Rebounding.
he also is,
Mm-hmm.
successful in that he's very diligent in his health and his physicality and his mentoring and leading of others. But anyways, I appreciate that you say that because it didn't come from perfection to begin with. He is a
No.
redemption story of someone who, and I don't know a whole lot about that. You obviously know more, but I do
Well,
think that's
his
important
his
to note.
his his opening chapter in the book gets into that in detail, just of what hardship it was and how he was not perfect, and the struggles that he
Right.
had, and that it took a lot, and that he was not in good favor with family, and he just he
Yeah.
he had to work hard. And I think that's one thing about success. People think that sometimes people are successful because it's easy. Success doesn't come easier with regardless who you are. I don't care if you're Steve Jobs, or any other founder of any other company. You get there by hard work, and better yet, being creative and successful in your day-to-day and the organization of such. And there again, being accountable to yourselves. If you can't be accountable, you're not going to
Hmm.
go anywhere. And I think that's the whole point of the first biblical story, is that God's going to hold you to meet some accountability. And if you can't do it, well, here's the outcome. We were going to exist forever. We were going to live forever. And now I've had to create a new atonement or punishment for sin. And you created the first sin, and those that are born from you, as God told them, they will be sinners as well. So it goes back to that whole point of in the Catholic faith having original sin, and you need to cleanse that original sin in forms of making atonement to God. And that's where the whole sacrificing issue came from
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
Old Testament, of sacrificing a lamb or sacrificing, take a life of an animal to worship, and God knew that would be hard for somebody to take the life of an animal. It would be hard. And when Adam and Eve had to do their first, and then the whole Cain and Abel story. I mean, the fact that that Cain took Abel's life, his own brother, killed his brother because he was upset because he brought his sacrifice was not as God's rule was to sacrifice a living thing, an animal, for worship. And this is all old times, this seems kind of old school for sure, but you know Cain brought fruit. He was a farmer, and
Mm.
and Abel was actually in charge of the sheep. He was the shepherd. So God told them, and God told Adam and Eve, that if to worship, to move forward in trying to atone for sin, you have to offer a life of an animal, some sort of blood killing of that, to the point that was misinterpreted years later. And I know we're getting into a lot of freaking things, but child sacrifice was a practice back in that time, when people that were not believers, they tried to atone. And so for whatever reason, they didn't take God's action in the plan, but they started sacrificing their own children. So just weirdness. But my point being is that I just found it interesting that what obviously determines right from wrong, and the importance of doing what's right and knowing what's right and wrong, is the fact that it is breaking law. It's breaking something that's not right, and there needs to be atonement for that. There needs to be punishment for that. Um,
Consequence. Yeah.
that's the word he uses. There's a consequence for
Yeah.
doing it,
And
not punishment,
I
but a
and
consequence.
and to
Good
circle
call.
back to your point, about today and the way people tend to be, I think that is, you mentioned, everybody is ready to give a second chance, and it's not just a second chance, it's a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth. And I say that because I do it. I've caught myself doing it in parenting, where I had my own little epiphany Thursday night with Reese, where I'm just like, I can't give this child any more chances. Like, at what point is there a consequence to the actions? And that's where we're at right now, because I finally just told her, I said, I'm really out of chances. This is crazy. And I do think that it has become a world where, you know, these kids get a lot of chances. There's very little consequence and a lot of chance. And I don't think we're doing them any favors, is my point. So I kind of am trying to hold myself accountable to how I am not doing my children any favors by not holding them accountable and trying to raise good humans to be respectful and not spoiled, just not spoiled little turds, quite frankly. And
Well,
to,
and
work for it. To your point about hard work, nothing comes easy, right? Nothing, life isn't going to be easy just because I make it easy for them. So at some point they have to start working and putting in their own efforts. But
well, and and I had that written down on one of the comments that you made in Shane's deal, and wanted to bring that forward, and you did it for me. But you're right, Reese. You made the point, well, telling Reese that I'm not going to let you make the same mistakes from social interaction being more important than what really is important in life. And that was the point that I did want to bring up to you, is that's a great mission statement from your standpoint.
mm,
And here again, going back to the original story,
I'm only going to let you
it
go back to this one more time.
one more time, but you've got to. I mean, that's what you're saying, is that there is a point of, this is the boundary,
Hmm.
this is the water line,
Hmm.
As long as you don't go, you know, you can be above the water line and be okay. But when that water line starts going down and the ship starts sinking, I mean, you cannot be there. And not
Yeah.
being there means there's right and wrong here, and you're going to have to take the consequences. And so I do think it was in coming back to the original story with Park. Yeah, he was fearful. And when you go back that he doesn't like making people unhappy, that is he when he realizes that, he shames himself,
Hmm.
and he's sorry for that. So no different than running and trying to hide or bearing, a uniform or fig leaves. Well, I didn't even know I messed up that bad. And that's, so he probably didn't really understand the difference between, well, that's the rule, that's the regulation, and that's kind of what you are expected to do. And if you don't, there are consequences.
Well, and honestly, I was really, quite frankly, disappointed that he didn't end up in the principal's office
I,
because
I I'm sure you were.
I was like, yeah, you need to go, and he's like, well, and I said, if it goes really south, Parker, I'll email Mr. Bucci and just say, look, I just want you to know that he came home immediately, was very upset. He knows he did, like I said, but you got to show up first. Let's see how it plays out. Because he was ready for me to just enter, Mom, can you jump in here and basically fix this for me? And I was like, no, I mean, you gotta have the meeting. Now the meeting didn't happen. And I'm like, I was bummed. He needed to go to the principal's office and
Mm-hmm.
be told, look, if the girl on the bus is causing you problems, then you need to go, you need to sit in that seat. And when you're walking off the bus that day, you need to say, Miss Sue, this chick back here this is not okay. I'm not putting up with this anymore.
Yeah,
And
if that girl
it's,
offers you to take a bite of the apple, you got to say no.
yeah, I'm like, tell her to back off, Parker. Oh man.
Oh,
But it's all
well,
coming from the bigger picture, to your point, and to, I think, just it's so fun sometimes how I feel like, without knowing it, we're so in sync on what we've been thinking about, because I just literally was going in circles, spinning yesterday about this, just people being accountable, and treating the things they do with respect, and having honor in the things they do, and pride in the things they do. And I just feel like we don't a lot, that people don't. And it bothers me because I do. And when I feel like this came from what I felt like, people not taking something serious and giving it what I believe is the right amount of effort. And I just can't understand that. I'm like, if you're going to do something, then do it. Or, as I said yesterday, or don't. Like, if you don't care enough to care, then why are you here? Just don't do it. Pick a different thing to
yeah,
do for an hour and a half of your day. Don't come in here and not take what I'm doing seriously, because I take that as an offense. I feel like you feel that my time and my effort isn't valuable. And I know it's valuable. I know my time is valuable and my effort. So,
well, there again, that's the respect factor. You've got to respect
right,
my time, and that's kind of,
right.
when you mentioned the whole social thing, and I'm not picking on the kids at all, but it's true. And again, even with employees, even with the people that you work with, when you tell me you're going to do something and then you don't,
Mhm.
t- or better yet, if you tell me that I'm offering you a job and you're taking that job, and we've spent hours and hours and weeks and months and everything to talk through this and what it means to do the job, and then you just can't adopt the way it's being done because you think you have a better way, just like Adam and Eve thought they had a better way. You know, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
It's the number one. It's the number one rule of the land. I mean, it just resonates in anything people think. You tell me you're going to do one thing and you do another. Well, that's not fair. It's
Yeah.
not fair. It's not, and better yet, it's not fair if I show you a way to do something and that this is the best way to get it done for what we're up against, I'm not saying that there's not a better way, but right now, can you not just maybe open up the gate and put the horse in the chute and be done with it and not worry about automatically rigging up that chute to open? I mean, just manually unlatch it and put him in there and move on.
Yeah.
So there's so many things of this, and I just know this is going to be a struggle for you. I do. And I think just from Reese trying to, well, you can go to that party as long as you live up to what you told me you're going to do this week. And if you don't, then you don't get to go. And I'm
Yeah.
just offering that knowing, and as you know, me and I think even Stu, we took a pretty hard line in a lot of cases with what we felt was right and what we felt was wrong, and tried to hold everybody to that. And not always. It was, we hurt for it. And this is another humanistic character. We always hurt for what we have to do to hold people accountable for what they didn't do, because we see that it wasn't that hard to actually get it done.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to that original story. Just think how about the big guy thought about it when they decided to take a bite of the wrong tree. I mean, he had to be crushed.
Well, and frustrated, I'm sure.
Frustrated for sure, because
yeah.
I made you. I gave you an opportunity to be perfect and not to do these things. And yet you still wanted to. And that's true. We're always going to pick the other, we got 3 crayons in front of us and somebody's hoping we use the first 2 and then we go grab the third one, just to be obstinate.
It's just, that is what is the most, I think, interesting thing of the story, is that is what mankind is. We do free will. Whether the free will is good or bad, we do what we want to do. Right. And, if you are lucky enough to have people in your life that help to guide you, to show you, when something was done good or well or whatever, and then, or when it's bad, and how to steer that ship back to the right direction. I mean, It's why it's a job, right? Everything's a job. Being a parent is a job. Being a spouse is a job. Going to work is a job, because it's not easy. It's work. Think about that, Dad. Think about, what do you do in a day that doesn't feel like a job?
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, if you're
and we don't get 2 weeks vacation for every job we do. We only get 2.
Yeah.
You get 2. You don't get 2 times 5.
It doesn't stop. It's exhausting.
That's the hardship that we put on ourselves, I guess, is the way I look at it. Hey, to change the subject and kind of get into some other things.
Please.
I did want to call you out on the on Harrisonburg, Virginia versus Harrisburg, Virginia. And the reason why
are you calling me out? Shane already called me out.
Well, I know that, but I want to give you the significance of why it should be important to you. Well,
because that is where he was born,
and that's where you were conceived.
Well, well, and also that is where you guys grew those amazing tomatoes that I didn't believe my mother could have ever been a part of.
Oh yeah, we did. And
right, that's where the garden was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right there in the backyard. And Suzanne, she's got a big old crop of tomatoes over that we got out of the garden when we got back from Cabo that are just incredible. We've had,
still growing.
So we're making some salsa out of the rest of them. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, speaking of Cabo, I was going to tell you, you must have made some friends, because we got an email on the old website that a Michael Smith, and the message just said, met at Villa del Arco.
Mm-hmm.
You're making friends in Cabo, Dad.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I had when we got to the we made big friends at the Arco the first week. Byron and Beverly. I'm trying to think of Byron's last name. It's not important. And then Keith and Lynn were 2 couples that we met, both originally from Richmond. Byron and Beverly had moved to Atlanta, but very, very, very good people. They were a lot of fun. And Keith was involved in a I don't know if he was an associate pastor or something, but he heavily involved in a church there in Richmond, and just good people. And uh, Lynn and Beverly both were just, when I was wearing the 2 Clicks hat, they were asking me about it. And I thought it was funny. A lot of people that would ask me about it, they thought it said two chicks. What's 2 chicks in a pod? And I said, no, it's 2 Clicks in a pod. And I think that was, I remember meeting Michael, but I didn't know his last name was Smith. But met a bunch of
Yeah.
people that just took a lot of interest in that. And uh, I think it was Beverly that told me, or it might have been Lynn that told me. It was Lynn that told me that she subscribed and, had started listening to the pod, and that she was just all excited about it. So I get that a lot down there. So it seems like everybody wearing the hat, everybody wants to know what it's all about. Not all, but some. Just they say,
Yeah.
somebody said, I really like that hat. Where did you get that? And I said, well, I got it from, I bought 100 of them for ourselves.
I was going to say, did you say you too can have one?
Yeah, I said you can have one. I said it's my daughter and I do a podcast. So anyway, so that was good. And I did notice. I thought I know we had a conversation about the pod and that earlier this week, and just what kind of success we thought we were getting, or the traction, and
yeah,
little discouraged. But I mean and I don't feel like I watch the metrics, and I do feel if we had more of a continual business meeting of getting in and seeing what's going on in the background, all of that. But I know that Shane's reel got like 554 watches or downloads.
he is a good looking man, Dad. So
Yep.
I'm sure that image just went hot and viral. I thought after recording that I should have shared with everybody that my own brother actually ranked the siblings in terms of their attractiveness at one point in our lives. And
still does.
I'm sure, to whoever will listen, and that he, in fact, I think he actually ranked himself second, didn't he? I think he ranked Kelsey number 1, and then he was number 2, a close second, I believe were his words. And he's like, and you're third. And you're third, Jamie. I was like, all right.
What we forgot to ask him was another thing I wrote down. We forgot to ask him about his Mandy Moore story.
Oh God, I don't need to hear that story again.
So that was that. Other thing that I thought,
but to your point, sorry, real quick. I don't, I just feel it is important to say, I count everything about this podcast as a success. Like I have no outlook on this as that it is not. Now, could it be more? Sure. I think we have learned a lot about this. I mean, I was actually talking to Chris about it the other night. He's like, I just hope you and your dad realize, like, for really 2 people, and yes, Kelsey kind of pulls it all together and puts it out there, and absolutely, and that's a huge help. But we are really doing all of it, the scheduling of the guests, the even thinking about what do we want to talk about? What do we think is something that's interesting that we want to talk about, but others would be wanting to listen to? Anyways, my point is that a lot goes into it. And Chris said, these podcasts out there that are hugely popular and successful in terms of probably monetary gain. He's like, James, they have an entire team of people that are doing all of that. The people who are on the pod, they show up, sit down, and talk. Like, they're not doing any of that. And I was like, you're right. He's like, there is a lot of these successful ones where there's an entire team of people that work to drive that and make it what it is. And so, it's just, I think what I have learned, I should speak for myself. What I have learned is just it how much time does go into it, how much more time could go into it if time was an endless resource that we both had, which unfortunately it's not. It's like there's only so much you can give in a day, a week, a month, a year to anything, right?
Yeah, I agree with everything on that point. I'd also agree with the biggest point, which I feel that it's been a tremendous success just in the um, joy,
Mhm.
fun, sense of accomplishment that when we started this, hearing Kelsey bring a stat that some people get one going and they're lucky to get past 3 to 5 episodes, if I remember right. 3 was the number I think she really said, but it didn't seem like it was that hard. I feel that it's given a lot of growth between you and I, which is probably the most important benefit. I'm very
Yeah.
proud to to state that we've done this for the length of time that we've done and how much we have covered. And I do think it would be good to go back and rank some of the top 10 that we
Mm.
felt was our favorite from one on one versus the top, how we rank the guest episodes. Not that it's a competition, but I think just again to
Yeah.
bring that back, and that there's other things to talk about other than just catch up or us visiting, which is the most important part. I think my most fun parts of the pods are usually when we're just kind of catching up and going strong, just in topic after topic after topic, other than a said topic. I really feel and wish that we could get more input from our listeners to say, hey, that episode was great, or this episode sucked. Got tired of hearing that story again, or just some good feedback, which we never have. And I feel we could do a better job of soliciting that feedback. If we don't get it, we don't get it. But and I don't think that would really come through the website or through comments. I think that comes from social media posts. And I do feel like you said, there is a staff of a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I know the girl that we have that's doing our solicitation of the same for the company, Architectural Wall Systems. Um, Sinai does a great job of that, and that's something that we really need in order to take this thing to a level that's higher, because we do need to get more visits, more hits, more downloads, those kind of things in order to
Mhm.
grow it. And it takes covering all facets of social media. And when uh, oh shoot, Jake Parrish reached out to me yesterday, and I copied you on his
Yeah.
deal
Very cool.
that he's headed. I threw some money at him and some caps to take to the tournaments on. And Jake Parrish is actually a writer for wakeboarding, wake surfing,
Mhm.
and has competed throughout the summer at various events, and actually grew up on Lake Cypress Springs, where Jamie and I had spent most of our lake time together, as we talked about throughout the pod. But Jake's
Mhm.
been competing, and when he was a youngster, probably 10, 11 years old, he was always hanging out with Kelsey and riding behind our boat and trying to be a part of that. And we would take him out, and he was kind of going through some hard times with a family breakup and just not getting any riding time. So he's an adult today, and has continued that being a passion of his, and competed, and is on a plane to go to Worlds this upcoming week in Dubai,
Yeah, very
which
cool.
is a dream of anyone's. If and I'm sure most people have not been to Dubai, but it's one of the most interesting couple weeks I've ever spent in that part of the world. And just, you talk about just craziness and money, it's everywhere there. But to go out there and compete on that, and gave him a couple $100, $250 to go through and help pay for his airfare, which isn't a lot of money going that far away. But he's got the caps in tow, and put 2 clicks on the back of his riding jersey and all of that kind of stuff, and is going to be sending us, and wearing ball caps on the podium if he can get
Oh,
there. So
I hope
that's
it,
pretty
yeah.
exciting.
I
Yeah.
hope he
So,
does well. Yeah, that's awesome.
but that kind of promotion and posting reels and calling us out, that's what we need to do. Just
Yeah.
because it needs to be, you can't open up Facebook today without seeing 20 ads about neat little gadgets that you can buy, and I'm sure they make a fortune on those because they're all senseless gadgets, but they all seem like they're neat and
I,
innovative. I mean, it's
I
funny
mean,
what you can see.
it's funny what you think you need, right? I mean,
It
isn't that
is.
wild to see this stuff?
Well, I know. Well, think about it. It's like QVC when it first came out. The TV commercials that would come up and try to sell you blenders and food
Y-
processors and walking
I,
shoes or whatever.
you know what I miss? I miss the days of the infomercials. I used to love an infomercial. And Chris would always teases me. He's like, you are just the most gullible person. Like, you see something and you're like, oh, we got to get that. He goes, you think it's going to work just like that? I'm like, I do. I am hook, line, and singer. Remember the Sham Wow, the towel
Oh yeah.
that
Uh
sucked
huh.
up all the water? That was one of
Yeah.
my all time favorites. I just was like, man, this thing is amazing. Like
Yeah.
I would have bought 100 Sham Wows if I have the if I had any of that money. You know what else I got into as a kid? Another
Well,
hook,
wait a
line,
minute.
and sinker.
I want to
What?
conclude that because your $29.95 Sham Wow. 6 months later, you could go down as seen on TV aisle
I,
in the
I know.
drugstore and Woolworths and get it for $5.99.
But you have to remember when that wasn't an option. Remember where you really did you'd have to buy it. And then
I
now they
know.
have I do love an as seen on TV option at
Yeah.
the CVS or
Yep.
the Walgreens. They have them at those places. Well, I mean, bottom line, I love a drugstore. I'm a big fan of
Well, that's interesting.
CVS. You didn't know that? Do you not? Have you never
No.
heard the story when this was it was when we were in Atlanta and it was like back to school night. And one of the activities was the teacher had said, oh, write what you want to be when you grow up. And we're going to have them displayed for back to school night. And your parents are going to be able to see, what you got. And so if it was Atlanta, I would have been, first or second grade because that's how old I was when we were living there. And, so mom and Stu go to back to school night and they're reading all the things. It's like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Or, I want to be a doctor, all these things. And they got to mine and mine said, I want to work at Drug Emporium.
Oh Lordy.
Because Drug Emporium was like the CVS of that time, and
Sure.
I loved it. So to this day, mom is like, they were both. They said that they just looked at each other and they're like, "Wow." Like, we have never been more proud. So I mean, back since I was, before Parker's age, Dad, did I love a drugstore? Anyways, but I love the infomercials, and I don't know if you know this as well, but I also was victim to the you got 10 CDs for $1. Do you remember that gig? And you would get it in the mail. I mean, these went out to everybody, and it was like the first offer was
Columbia
something
House, where
like
you,
that, and it was
yeah,
like
where you
you.
join the club.
I joined the club without
Oh, I did
telling
that too.
mom or
Yeah.
dad, and these
Yeah.
CDs showed up, and then they saw them and they're like, what did you do? And I said, oh, it's fine. It was maybe even like for free. They're like, no, it's not free. Now you're committed for a year. We have to buy a CD for a month for a year. Oh, they were so mad at me because I had just sent it away. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I probably picked like Paula Abdul or something. I mean, God only knows what music I picked, but I definitely did
Straight
that as
up.
well.
That's right. Straight up. There you
Straight up,
go.
don't tell me. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I
So
loved
that's
Paula
true.
Abdul.
Columbia House or something big music. I mean, those. You're right. You would get so many for like $1.99, and then they'd come in at
Yes.
$23.95 a piece every month
Yes.
or
And
something.
you were
Yeah.
locked in. If you didn't buy it, they're
Yep.
like, that's
Yep.
fine. You don't have to. You just have to pay us the money. So I definitely fell victim of that. So these are all full circle moments, Dad. I'm talking about my trying to hold my children accountable and having consequences. Meanwhile, I was doing stupid shit myself That's why mom always calls it payback. She's like, you realize this is just all payback.
The other thing that came out the other week, which I thought about today in trying to bring some notes forward, because there were so many things in Shane's podcast that just kind of resonated loud and clear, and things that we had not talked about. And I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
When he talked about how hard it is for him to go in and actually start a conversation, and what came
I was
out of
surprised by that. Were you surprised by
well,
that?
no, because I think I
No?
know him a little bit differently than you do. But two things would be, we're all three the same way. We're all cut out of
Yeah.
the same mold, no doubt about it. Now Shane may be a little bit more,
He's nicer.
not as well. He can't. Yeah, for the most part, he
I
is.
mean,
He's not bottom line up front as much as you and I are, and
yeah,
but
he's
yet
not as
he is when it
judgmental, I
comes to
think.
work. Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
a softy. He's a softy. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a hard time. He has a hard time holding people accountable. He wants to give them, and we all, and I'm guilty of that as well. If I trust everybody, and when trust gets broken, then my heart's broken. But I will give everybody a chance. I believe everything they say, which I don't know if that's good or bad. But
How many sham wows did you have because of that?
well, I hear you. I'm kind of that way as too. But I mean, I forget what I bought on those TV things. But I'm like you. After you sit there and watch it for an hour and a half, it finally comes around to where they brainwashed you into it being such a good deal. And
Well, and how could it not
it's
work
kind of
that
like
way?
it's kind of like ordering something from Temu today. I mean, it looks great until you get it through there, and then you try to put it together and it breaks and falls apart. But I mean, yeah, I can imagine people laying. And I remember watching those late at night, not being able to sleep. And that was the only thing that was on. And you'd watch them, and you'd watch them, and you'd watch them, and then you'd end up buying something.
But is that because, like you said, because I don't think this is a bad thing. I think what you were trying to get at, I kind of interrupted you. I apologize. Is that we do choose to believe that people are doing things in an honest for the right reasons. To your point, you and maybe Shane's point where he gives people chance because it's like he knows they can do better, do more, be better. So he wants to give those chances. Maybe.
Yeah, and I said that in the podcast as well, that there's not many people that I don't think I can show or demonstrate or train to get them to do something, that benefits the end goal. And Shane, I think, is, we all believe. And again, I set myself up in that a lot of times, because I've been hurt many times for believing something that's just not going to happen or not going to be true. I'll never forget actually lending an employee like $6,000 because he was needing to get this car, and I fronted him that money, and never saw it. Never
Yeah.
saw a penny of it, and he didn't work for me long enough after that to where he went through that, and then he ended up quitting and going to work somewhere else, and he still owed me this money, and had to end up putting a lien on his house, which that didn't get me anything. And it's kind of
You
like
just
the
got to move on.
$10,000 that got taken out of my account the other day. I'll never see that money. So it's
Well,
just,
and that's one of those things, and you doing that and being a business owner and taking those chances. I think the work I do being in HR, it's like it almost makes you kind of jaded because you do see real humanity at play a lot. And unfortunately, like there's a lot of people that do a lot of shitty things. And I hate to say that, but I know that my professional life has definitely made me more just probably judgmental, but also a lot of the times, I mean, this is going to sound very arrogant, but like I'm right. Like I am. I end up. I mean, Shane would always say this. He would always just say like, "God, you're just so judgmental. You're such a bitch." Like give that person a chance. And I would say like, Shane, I'm just telling you, this is not a good person. Like this is not. I don't need to invest any of my time in this. Now, if you want to, go for it. But
Yeah.
and a lot of times it would circle back, and I was right that they were not a person worth investing a lot of time in. So I don't know. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that because I feel like I also live my life where if I think you are a good person, like I'll give you anything and everything. I will give you my time. I will literally give you the sweat off my back. I'll do anything for you. But in the same breath, like if you're just not worth it, like I don't get bogged down by that. I just don't.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I know a lot of you're right. Professionally, being an employer, being, a mentor, being a founder, you've got to give time to your people. And better yet, you have to know your people. And so the difference
Yeah.
there is, are you given time? Are you really spending enough time knowing your people to the level that
Mhm.
they want you to know them, meaning more personally than just professionally? Because
Mhm.
everybody likes to have time with you. But then a lot of times you spend a lot of time on that, and it prevents them from getting done what they really need to get done. There's no extra effort put in, yet they've told you that they can buy in and make it happen, and they're going to get goes back to your accountability issue. Don't tell me you're going to get it done and then make excuses at the end of the week that you didn't get it done because you just didn't give it something got in the way of the effort that you needed to give it. Well,
And and
that's not
and that may be
that's
okay.
it.
Yeah, but to your
That
point,
may
like
be okay or
that
it may
might be
not.
okay. Yeah. And,
It
and
may
that's
or
what
may
I think to
not.
your point is like instead of making an excuse, just own it. Like let's just role play this. You say, "Hey, I'm going to have that done by Friday. I commit to that happening." And most of the time that person does, right? I mean, this is a best case scenario. That person
Hmm.
typically doesn't let you down. Well, in this case, that person does let you down. Your point, and I agree with this, is like my expectation, as I'm not the owner of the business, but I've been in management for a while. I have a team. Is that person would be like, "Hey, James, so I'm not going to be able to get that to you today. I apologize. I've already got my Monday figured out on how I'm going to get it to you Monday, but I didn't get it done." Okay,
Yeah.
because they owned it. It's not. There's no excuse. Oh, remember my mom got sick and I had to help out, or it's like, okay, you didn't, and if that person typically does, they've built that trust, that
Trust. Yeah.
relationship
Trust.
where you're like, okay, I appreciate you
Hmm.
being honest and not making a bunch of excuses, and they come through. And then if they don't, and it continues to be a habit or a problem, then that's not a person you want on your team.
No. No, and I
That's how I
think
feel about it.
yeah, I agree. And going into it, people, the ones that make false promises are false promises. The ones that can come back and get it done will get it done. And it's not to say that people don't have legitimate reasons for not getting it done, or better yet, it just seems once again that don't just take the reason out from not getting it done. Provide a solution that this is what's going to happen in order to make it happen, and
Yeah,
be able to solve the problem that was created through that. And that there again, that's just being responsible, and that's just being accountable, and that's just being respectful. And those three
yeah,
things always, for whatever reason, some people just don't. They're chameleons. They tell you one thing and do another, and
yeah,
that's true. And me as a child did the same thing. If you're getting in trouble, it's because you said you did something, you were going to do something and you didn't do it, or you shouldn't have been doing something that you weren't supposed to be doing. So, or
yeah,
you did do something you weren't supposed to be doing. So it's definitely an issue. But I did think it was funny again that the shyness of approach, or when you made the statement, I just hate going to networking, or I hate going to business conferences and then having to meet and round up with everybody. And I don't think any of us like that, because what is there to talk about? We talk about our
yeah,
work every day on the phone, or you haven't seen some people in a great time, but those people have other people on their shoulder. So you really don't get to spend any quality time. It's just a tough environment. And I, I thought it was really funny that we all kind of felt the same way, and were very
yeah.
common in that.
I agree.
Um,
I thought that was interesting for sure. Man, this feels like the most random episode we have ever had.
It is. We're all over the place, and that's hell. We've been over to Dubai and back, and
The
We've
Garden of
gone to
Eden.
Harrisonburg
I
and
mean,
back, and I
my
mean
God.
this and that. Lordy,
Yeah.
lordy. But I
Lordy,
mean,
lordy.
it's the only other topic that I thought was just really cute, and glad you brought it forward, was the story about Suzanne's Aunt Susan.
Oh, God. Aunt
And
Susan.
yeah, and how much she was, just happy to be there. And they've
She
said the
was
same thing since getting back home, and just what a good time. Everybody has said that. I mean, Bryce and
what a
Marcy, and
nice lady. I mean, she
yeah,
just exuded kindness, and she was authentic. I mean, when she said that, oh Jamie, Kentucky accent, gotta love it. I'm Suzanne's Aunt Susan, and making sure we got that straight. I just loved that. She was great. She was so nice, and well, everybody was great. It was a good time to catch up, and reconnect with a lot of people. But
yeah, no doubt, it was a good
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
And I woke up this morning, and I've been counting it down every week. So I said, "Honey, we've made it through 5 weeks." She
Oh,
goes, "Well, where are you going to go? Where's this? Where are you taking this?" I said, "No, we made it through 4. We made it through 5. It's just hard to believe. It seems like it was yesterday. We were already 5 weeks into it." So
it is truly just frightening how fast time goes. On the
it is.
drive over here, I thought about the fact that it's October, end of October. We've got Halloween coming up, and I was just like, "How is that even?" I remember the other day talking to Dolph at work, and he's like, "Can you believe it's October 1st?" And I was just like, "I can't, Dolph. I cannot believe that." And now I'm here going, I'm going to be saying it's November 1st before it's just wild. Like it's like, I'm not
Well,
okay with it, but I don't have a choice. So what am I going to do about it? Other than the fact that I did say this with this age, the 7th grade year for Restat, if I could
oh,
literally fast forward and just get out of middle school, I think I would do it. Like, as much as I don't want to
mhm.
wish time away, I really don't like 7th grade. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan
Does
of
she
the
have one more year with it in 8th grade, or does she go into a
Yeah,
different
but
school?
it's like, no, she's got another year, but I just feel like, and I was talking to Jess about this last night. Like, I remember not liking 7th grade. I remember mom telling me 7th grade with me was terrible. Like, all just like, what a terrible, terrible year. And Reese is fine. She's got all A's. As we know, she is thriving socially. Like, she's having a great life. However, the way she treats me, which is what happened Thursday night, and I basically just
Mm,
said, "This is it. This is the final. If you do this again, there will be a consequence." Like, I dropped the hammer, and she's been good. We've had a good weekend together. The boys are away, so we've been together a lot. Well, the past 2 weekends we've been by ourselves, and but she's just moody. She's moody, and she's
can I
nice to
give you
everybody
advice?
else. She's just not nice to
I,
me.
I wanted. This is a good time for me to bring up what I wanted. One of the other things I wanted to
Oh,
say to
yes,
you.
please. I will always take advice.
I'm going to say it softly.
Okay. Are you gonna be my podcast helper?
I'm going to be your helper. Hey,
What do you got?
you don't need to be so transparent about your indiscretions as a youngster with your daughter.
Oh, you're probably right about that. Yeah.
You're giving her every out known to mankind to just push back and blame. Well, I'm no worse than you were.
This is true. This is
You
true.
need you need to you need to you need to wear you may need these costumes have been out in Walgreens since August. I mean, Halloween is finally here, and thank God. I mean, I walked in there at 1st of August and I saw Halloween pumpkins everywhere. get yourself a costume and wear it when you feel like you've just got
What
to show your nakedness and your skin
I
to
know
your daughter.
the good mother, the good person, good mother. You're right. You're right. I mean, it's a fine line because I want to have a very honest, open, transparent relationship with my daughter. I think that's very important to one establish mutual respect and communication because I want her to feel like she can talk to me about these what will be hard topics. I don't want her being
Yeah,
like me and
yeah.
hiding, and not
Uh huh.
sharing. But yeah, it's like it's my I'm with you. It's walking a very thin line sometimes.
Well, it's like your brother told you last.
What do you say?
I'm tired of you talking about my mom's boobs.
Well,
Let's
I
let
mean,
that go. I'm kind of tired about hearing about mom's boob jobs.
that's
So,
funny. That's funny.
well,
Well, this is the
hmm
thing though, is it's like I do everybody should parent the way they want to parent, first of all. I don't like when people try to like you make other people feel bad or whatever. Like, so do what you want to do. But I do not disagree with what you're saying. But I do think it is a little comical sometimes when some parents like act like they didn't do anything. I'm like, all right, let's not bury our heads in the
well,
sand and
yeah,
act
but
like you
that's
don't
between
know.
you and your girlfriend. You know,
I know, but it's
when Parker's got the Costco pretzel jar on top of his dresser and it's full of gummies. I mean, you got something to worry about there, young lady. Or better yet, he's got your gummies in there.
Well, I will tell you, Reese already pulled a me, and she already told me I'm not ever gonna drink. I'm not gonna drink alcohol. And I said
Oh,
that is great, and that is a great choice for you. And if you continue to live that choice, that's fantastic. And so I told somebody that the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, that won't last." I go, "Well, that's fine, but it's fine for her to think
we even
now."
had you sign a
I
contract. We had you sign a contract right there poolside.
I know. I was like, I had it in writing. And it didn't last. But maybe she will break the mold, Dad. Maybe she will be different. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, she may not. She may. I doubt that, but she may be. Mm.
Now, yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that I could see Reese. Reese is such a rule follower. I could see her like not that she would never
Really?
drink, but I could see her obviously not going the route I went. Parker, no. Parker is
I could
like
see. I could see Reese. You know, just with her kind of slender build now and how tall she is and her long hair, she could go through a Daisy Jones moment or two.
oh God, yeah, maybe.
She'll
Like I
roll up with a she'll roll up in a VW bus with sunflower with flowers all over it, and you know that would be the bomb. I could see her
You
getting
say
down
that
that
these
transition.
kids, Dad, so like hyper about vaping,
Hmm.
which is good. That's not a bad thing. But she's like, Mom, at the football game on Friday, there was a kid there, and he was maybe ninth grade, and I looked over, and he did the like she mimicked the motion of like hiding the vape, the and so she showed that. I go, oh, he was vaping, and she's like, yes. I go, well, not a good choice for him. Kind of
Mm-mm.
like, but I mean, for her, it's like, can you even believe it? And I said, well, Reese, back in my day, people were smoking cigarettes. So I was like, I can believe it. But, I said, people are going to choose to do what they want to do. And, it's not a good thing to do that. So I'm just kind of like, paddle your own canoe, like you don't need to,
Yeah,
don't worry about that kid. I mean, but they're all like, oh, they vape. They've got these kids just so. I don't. My point is like it's just different now. Kids, I
yeah.
think, are different. I think they are making not all kids, but I think a lot of kids are making a lot better choices. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I think you're right. I think there's a new push that way for sure. I
Yeah, which is
yeah,
good.
we'll see if it sticks. But yeah, I hear you. I think you're right there.
Anyways, well, I do want to come full circle. Let me ask you: did you notice anything about my hair?
Well, get in frame there. I can't see all of it.
What am I not in frame? It's on my book.
Well, you got some streaks in it. You got some new streaks in it, I think.
Oh, Dad, I am blonded up. It just needs to be washed. It's a little dirty right now, but
yeah, I see it. I see it.
It's been a big hit with everybody up here. Everybody's very happy to
good.
see I've been going back to my blonde hair. So
Good deal.
keeping the masses happy.
You'll have to wear it down next time.
I will. Let me tell you why I haven't washed it. There is lice going around up here.
You told me that the other day when
Did
I
I
talked
tell
to you
you?
on the phone.
Yeah,
that
so
you were expecting Reese's head.
Yes, I have been very, very anxious, and it's been very hard for me this week, Dad.
Did you call the pest guy to come into the house and spray?
No, Dad, I've had so much anxiety about it, and like I just get, you know me, I get myself so wound up. Those of who know me well know how I get. I mean, I was so anxious last night after coaching the at the football game. I don't coach football. I coach cheerleading. I think I'd rather coach football, honestly. But I was so just wound up, and I was hanging out with Jess later, and anyways, and she said, I said, I gotta tell you, I am so anxious right now. My anxiety is like through the roof, and I can't figure it out. And she said, just go lay down for 30 minutes. Like, basically, like, just go to sleep. Go lay down.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Go relax. We're going to have a great...
headphones on, get some headspace going.
We're going to have a great night is what she said. And we did. We had a chill night, and I relaxed. But I did tell her, I said, it's just this whole week, between the lice and I was like, I'm done. On that note, I do have to let you run. I do have to go, Coach. We've got 2 hours of practice ahead of us. So,
okay. Well, we are going to do the same. We're going to
have a great time at the game tonight. I'm really jealous. I wish I was going to a Flyers game. The Flyers are doing pretty well, Dad.
They are. I watched them a couple times, and they definitely are doing well.
And let me tell you, I was watching them the other day, and I was so excited because for the first time ever in being a Flyers fan, I looked over at Chris. I said, I just feel like those boys are finally moving. he was like, what are you talking about? I go, well, they finally, because we would watch the Flyers play. I'm like, why do we always just seem so much slower than every other team we're playing against? And he's like, it's just kind of their style of play, And and the other day I had it on. I was like, man, I feel like they are moving. Like they are just playing what feels to be more aggressive, and I don't know.
I hear you on that. I've always, I thought, well, I can't say always, but what I remember of old Flyers games is just how big the guy. They always seem to have a big.
That was their
team,
the Broad Street Bullies
players. Yep, yeah, and just they didn't. And that reminds me when the Hatchers played for the Stars. They were not fast. They just lumbered around, but those guys were just big bullies and enforcers at the same time as they were skating. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And good days. So
yeah,
I'll be curious. I haven't really watched any of the Stars games. I know they got a new coach this year, and Hokies. We're going to the Virginia Tech game next weekend. So,
oh, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
Well,
so
yeah.
I need to call Uncle Craig and let him know we're coming in town.
Did I tell you that Brighton got engaged?
No.
Brighton's engaged, so cool. I'm so excited. We got a wedding to look forward, another wedding to look forward to. I do love a wedding.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So, anywho, but yeah, your Hokies are not in the Seminoles.
They did win They did win in double overtime against Cal the other day. So
that's
on Friday.
Great. That's great.
Yep. That gave them a victory. That could be fun.
Well, enjoy that. I can't wait to hear about it. All right.
Okie doke.
Well, I love you.
I love you too. And have a good rest of your day. And we'll touch base later. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Tell Suzanne.
2 clicks in a pod.
Hello. 2 clicks.
Tell who?
Tell Suzanne.
Oh yeah, she'll be wondering. I got on the little helper routine yesterday. I forget what it was, but I had her in stitches. So that little helper guy just kind of comes around. Yep, I know you need some help. I'll go get him. There she is.
There she is. All right.
Dr. Prism. Yep. Okay.
On that note.
Yep. We'll talk to you later, honey. I love you. Tell
Love
everybody
you.
hi.
I will.
All right.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksinapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.